This looks dead. You have exactly 24 hours to prove it isn't. Went out one Tuesday to a clematis that had climbed the porch post 6 years running. The evening before, it was covered in buds. That morning, black. The whole top of it hanging off the trellis like a wet rag. Leaves gone the color of a bruise. Stems folded over as though someone had let the air out of them in the night. I know exactly what you're thinking because I thought it too the first time. Dig it out. It's finished. Don't touch that spade. What killed the top of your clematis isn't in the soil, it isn't your watering, and it certainly isn't anything you did wrong. It's a fungus. Clematis wilt, they call it, and it rides in on the air and picks its moment. Usually the very week the thing looks its best. Nobody warns you about it when they sell you the plant. Doesn't tend to come up, funny enough, while you're standing at the till holding a vine covered in flowers. Now here's the part that'll surprise you, and it's the whole reason I'm telling you to leave the spade in the shed. 9 times out of 10, the plant under the soil is perfectly alive. This is a 24-hour countdown, not a funeral. And what you do in that window, starting with one specific cut, decides whether it limps back weaker or comes back better than it ever was. So, before any cutting, we diagnose. The surprising bit first. A collapsed clematis is almost never dead where it counts. The fungus works the stems, not the roots. This part's actually documented, and nobody tells you this either. But the crown down in the dark is nearly always sitting there untouched, wondering what the fuss is about upstairs. So you're not checking whether it's alive, you're checking how far up the trouble reaches. Run your hand up from the base. What you're after is the line, the point where firm green stem turns to that soft, blackened, collapsed mess above it. Sometimes it's a single shoot gone and the rest still solid. That's localized, and that's your easy day. Sometimes every stem's gone over at once, right down near the ground. That's total, and I'll grant you it looks like the end of the world. It isn't. Total just means you'll be cutting lower. Same plant, same countdown, same good odds waiting underneath. My neighbor Frank skipped this step entirely one June, saw the black, decided it was a goner, and had the whole thing out and on the bonfire by lunch. Roots and crown and all. 3 weeks later, mine was throwing new shoots, and his was a hole in the border. He still brings it up. I let him. Now the cure, and I'll warn you, it feels like vandalism. You cut it down. Not tidy it up, cut it. Every infected stem comes off at 6 inches from the ground. 15 centimeters if you think in those, about a hand's span above the soil. If it's localized, you go just below the black into clean green. If it's total, you take the lot down to that 6-inch mark and don't lose a wink over it. Sharp secateurs, and this next part matters more than the height. Wipe the blades between cuts. A bit of rubbing alcohol, a wet cloth, whatever's to hand. You're ferrying spores on that steel otherwise, and there's no sense curing one stem while you quietly infect the next. When you're done, it'll look like you've committed a crime. A pot of stubs and bare soil where a flowering vine stood at breakfast. I looked into why cutting this hard actually works, and it's almost too simple to believe. The fungus can't live in wood it can't reach. Take the infected top clean away, and you've carried its whole house off with it. What's left below is green, sealed, and already thinking about growing back. Which brings us to the bag those stems go in. Get this one wrong, and you'll be doing every bit of this again next month. Now, the one nobody mentions. Those stems you just cut do not go on the compost heap. I know. Every instinct you own says garden waste, compost. That's the entire point of a heap, not this. Every blackened stem is loaded with fungal spores, and spores are patient. They'll sit in a cool compost pile all winter, quite content. And the day you barrow that lovely dark compost back onto your borders in spring, you've planted the wilt right back at the foot of the plant you just saved. Straight in the trash, the bin that leaves your garden altogether. And that healthy-looking cutting you were eyeing, thinking you'd root it for a friend, no, that's exactly how this travels from garden to garden, tucked into a pot of good intentions. My daughter's the plant biologist in the family, so she gets to correct me at dinner, and she put it plainest. The spore doesn't need the living plant, she said. It just needs to wait. Somewhere out there is a version of this fungus, older than the flower bed it's sitting in. So, the base is cut, the spores have gone off with the rubbish, now we wake the thing up. You've made it through the hard part, and I'll say this much, a stubbier, uglier little garden bed you will not have seen. Sit with it a moment. It's the best looking thing out there right now, even if it hasn't the faintest idea. Because here's what's going on down where you can't see. Along that stem below the soil and down in the crown sit dormant buds, little coiled beginnings that have been there the whole time, waiting on a reason. Losing the top is the reason. Take the vine away, and the plant stops pouring itself into a lost cause and hands everything to those buds instead. Your job now is to make the ground worth waking up into, a long, slow drink at the base, gentle enough that it soaks down to the roots rather than running off the top. Then a balanced feed, nothing exotic, a general-purpose plant food does the job, worked lightly into the surface of the soil. Then the hardest instruction on the whole list, leave it alone. New shoots come in 2-3 weeks, sooner if the weather's kind, green and low and mad keen. My grandson found the first ones on mine before I did, down on his knees in the border, shouting that the dead plant had babies, near enough right as it turned out. And the plant that comes back isn't the one you lost. It comes up from lower down, more stems, thicker through the base, harder for the wilt to fell a second time. One more thing for the version of you standing out here again next summer. When you put in your next clematis, set it 2 or 3 inches deeper than it sat in the pot. Sounds wrong, I know, burying good stem on purpose, but it leaves you a row of growing buds down in the dark, below where the wilt can reach. Before the plant's even had its dinner, you're planting the recovery before you ever need it. Cheapest insurance in the garden.